Hello. What's up? Welcome. I'm Guy. That's John. And this is Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF. If you're watching on YouTube, great. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to the podcast, great. 5-star review. Leave a review. In the review, ask a question. Rumors are there might be a mailbag next week. So leave a question. That's how you get. My guess is I'm going to look at those reviews, John. Mailbag questions are going to be like something about Trey Lance. So leave a review. Let's freshen those bad boys up. Been a while since we asked for those. We're brought to you by our friends at Tito's. Handmade vodka.
Got to give a cheers here. A Tito's cheers. I actually had a couple last night. I want to give a cheers to a fellow NFL coach. Not that we're NFL coaches, but not that we're NFL coaches, but just an NFL coach.
Oh, okay.
Who I think's beaten Kyle once in 20 attempts. Now it was the most important game they'll probably ever play. So I think Kyle would trade all those wins. But Sean McVey, one of the youngest coaches in NFL history, went on to great success. Super Bowl champ, just had a baby. Jordan John McVey. Maybe they're trying to go with the JJ McVey.
Yep. JJ McVey.
So him and his beautiful wife Veronica. Cheers to you, Sean McVey, having a baby.
Yeah.
And he also said a couple weeks ago that people were getting nervous that the baby was going to come around game time. And he said, my son's smarter than that. He knows better. And he did. And now Sean McVey, I'm sure, will be in Dallas coaching that game on Sunday morning. And I bet there will be a couple people with some takes that he shouldn't be there. He should be with the wife. But
yep.
I feel pretty confident that Sean McVey will be on the sideline. How about yourself?
Yeah. Government's not giving him paternity leave, John.
No. What would the takes be if he just went on paternity leave for I get 3 months?
Multiple weeks. Like, hey man, I get my 3 months.
No, like 2 months. Like I'm going.
I get my 2 months. Would
they
the
fire
owner be
him?
allowed to say something? I'm paying you $18 million. That's a great question. I didn't predict it, but McVey naming his kid Jordan is like pretty on brand for McVey, I think.
Yeah.
Right. JJ McVey, Kyle.
I think sometimes you try to set up like my brother did David James, to get the DJ.
Yeah.
But it does have to kind of come organically, even though ironically, like a lot of the golfers that are JT, DJ, it's their first and last name, right? It's not like a nickname. It's like Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas. Like that's their name.
Michael Jordan, man, is the greatest athlete of all time, man. I can just see him like, of course he named his kid Jordan. Sean McVay. I got JJ McVay is going to be like, Shanahan's going to like that little 5'9" slot receiver in the draft coming up in 20 years.
Yeah, or he'll be quality control coach at like 19 years old. It's like, I just skip in college. I'm going right into the NFL to coach.
That's a good call.
One of these guys' kids is going to do something like that where it's like, you are not playing Division I football. Like, fuck it. I don't want to play at Weber State. I'm just going to the league. 18. I'll just be a quality control guy.
Got my degree in football coaching. I don't need to be an actual real printed degree.
Like when you hear Kyle talk, I would imagine once he realized that he actually sucked relative to other players and he had no shot of playing past college, he's just like, what a waste. Like I should have just started coaching 3 years. I would even have been ahead.
Right. Yep.
That's the Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin. They start coaching in college. It's like, hey, you're not playing. Join the staff as a 20-year-old, and they get that kind of early break. And by 27, they're OC.
Shanahan wouldn't have done that.
Well, you hear him talk about his playing days. I think he thought he had something going.
He coaches the receivers hard, John.
Yeah,
because he was
McVey too, little slot receiver.
Yep. Tito's handmade vodka, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas, 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof. Enjoy 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Enjoy your Tito's. Check out Tito'sVodka.com for some recipes, especially with Halloween coming up. A lot of parties coming up. Take a bottle of Tito's. You are always a good guest, and you're always a great host when there's Tito's.
I can't put pumpkins in front of my house because these pigs called the javelinas smell them and they will eat them.
Seriously?
So, well, we haven't.
Is Lolly allowed outside at night?
But we've looked around. They come in the middle of the night. I mean, there are bobcats and stuff. Yeah, I mean, you just got to be home. Coyotes, bobcats. Ooh. This is This is where they live.
Yeah, you're in their habitat, right?
I was driving down a pretty populated street probably 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Scottsdale Road, probably one of the biggest, most populated road down the heart and from north to south Scottsdale, and turned to go pick up, some rug. And all of a sudden you look and there's just, populated street, people, and then there's kind of like bush area, and it's just a bobcat looking at you. Like, hey, what's up? It's just a bobcat.
Welcome to my neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm here.
Glad you can make it. John, for those of you watching on the YouTube, Nick Wagoner, ESPN, posted a video of Brock Purdy practicing. To what degree, as we're doing this Thursday afternoon, he's got the helmet on, he's got the shell on. And even though Adam Schefter said nobody
sell that fake a little harder,
nobody in this position, going back to Kenny Pickett, was it 2 years ago or last year?
He was a rookie last year, so
yep. So not at Pitt. Played the same week that they entered the concussion protocol. Are you ruling out Brock Purdy's return?
I'm not, because there's you and I were talking about this before we hopped on. I mean this with all, not in a negative light, because part of being a coach in the NFL level, I would say the most famous coach of our lifetime, really the two, the second one kind of copied the first one. For as great as they are schematically, Walsh and Belichick, I think when you look at the totality of the picture of their careers, they're known as like these ruthless kind of businessmen when it come to their roster. Walsh was known. Always got rid of a guy a year early rather than a year late. And Belichick like copied the exact same philosophy. And Bill, you and I didn't really see like Walsh in his prime holding press conferences. I think he had a little more juice to him. Like he could hold court. He was a kind of a big personality, even though, you read about him, he's like more of an introvert, I think, behind the scenes, but like in front of a press conference, he's kind of a bubbly guy. Belichick, the opposite in front of the cameras. But both of them, I think in football terms would be known as pretty ruthless. Mm-hmm. Walsh tried to get rid of Young. Belichick got rid of everyone, including Brady. Fucking literally everyone on the team over a 20-year span. I think Kyle's a lot like that. Now, every coach is, in a sense. Pete is, Andy is. It does feel that they attempt to be a little more tactful. I know whenever the Seattle, it feels like kind of had some blunders with their guys, they always like came out and like were remorseful, right? They hated kind of getting that, kind of label on them, like Pete and John. And Andy just somehow avoids the label, even though he's traded or cut the majority of players who have played for him, but he's good at it. I don't think Kyle really cares. And I think when you think of Belichick, he used to get nailed for having concussed players practice. I think, remember Ted Johnson? This is a story like a decade ago, like in the early Brady days, like doing some shady. He just was kind of wired like a 70s, 80s coach. I think there's some of that with Kyle. I think the easy thing would be just give him the week off, no matter what. He gets the bye week and he comes back fully ready to go, head cleared, fresh. Give another week for the elbow. Kyle is not thinking like that at all.
Get a week away from a concussion, right? Studies show you have a concussion, you're more likely to get another concussion.
We just saw last year Tua go like back-to-back games. It felt like multiple times. And we talked about this offseason, like, is this guy going to die on the field one day? He even said, like, I thought about, it crossed my mind, retiring. He's even uttered those words. So to put this guy, now listen, I think the first thing any of these guys would say, I'm not a doctor. And you're not. But I think he is fully prepared to play the guy if he's quote unquote cleared by the doctors.
Yeah, they asked. So he was asked on Wednesday,
if there is no secret, unwritten rule, like under no circumstances are you allowed to do this, and it's been talked, and maybe there's a call happening this week from the league office to Jed to tell Kyle, like, this, we don't allow this anymore. Like, this is
right.
That $15 million you make, Kyle, because of the money Jed makes because of this TV. It's all under this umbrella of everything that happened within the last decade that somehow we fended off and figured out. So this is not like the machismo, bravado, which I'm all for. I love that aspect of football. You got to take it out of their hands, because a football coach like Kyle is going to be very black and white. He's clear he's playing.
Oh, yeah, almost like it's only up to the doctors unless the doctors clear him too soon, and then we say secret ban for 1 more week just to be safe, right? That's what you're suggesting, is that maybe the NFL is saying even once you clear, if you've cleared 5 days after it got reported, nah, you're not playing this week. We're just going to protect.
I think this is the Jim Nance Tony Romo game too. So it
is. No, I told you the other day it is. Like I do think that
so
from an
gonna be a lot.
perspective that factors in here. This is not some it's not some regional game
only
being seen in Minneapolis, Cincinnati, right? So you can't have Brock. You don't. What you can't have if you're the league is it's one thing for a concussion to occur, they occur, but when it looks like you've rushed a guy back, and the Tua thing, you're right, we went back in time like 5-7 years with that Tua situation. Like that level of disregard for concussions hasn't really been a topic for the NFL in a long time.
See, but I think if Kyle played him, there's no rushing him back. He was in a protocol. The protocol set, and he passed.
Totally. Yeah.
That's where I think if you're the league, you have to, say no go, because Kyle will play him. I truly believe that, and I don't believe he's a bad guy for doing that either. Like it's just that's a
no. If the doctor says he's cleared, Kyle will say the evidence that I don't meddle is the doctor cleared him, so I played him. I don't meddle. That's why he's playing.
Yeah, right. Because back in the day of shake it off, get back in there, right, has been taken out of the game.
Yeah, but I think Kyle set it up Wednesday. They asked him all these questions about when does he have to clear by and XYZ, and he was like, I have nothing to do with this. Like when the doctor tells me he can play is when he plays. And if they tell me he didn't say this part, but he basically said, if they tell me he can play 20 minutes before the game, then he can. Like he doesn't need to practice this week in order for me to play him. He said Brock played last year against Seattle with no practice reps that week.
I think part of it is they made the concussion protocol more difficult to pass, clearly, because I would say it was pretty common occurrence. I'm just going to pick a year, and I could be off. Let's just say 2016 to 2020. If a guy, post a movie, no one would have. You'd have to pay people to watch, and they still would say no. That let's just say for a 4-year span at the end of the teens. A ton of guys. I would say, I'm just going to pick a arbitrary number, educated guess, say 80-85% of guys would go in the protocol and play Sunday. Different positions.
Sure, yeah.
Tackle, guard, linebacker, whoever. But it was very normal for a guy to be in the concussion protocol on Monday and play on Sunday, right? Based on, a guy got a concussion in the game. He's in the protocol Monday. And by like Thursday or Friday, he clears and he's playing on Sunday.
Do they always call it protocol? It almost feels like there wasn't. It was just like, hey, is your eyes following this pencil?
Yeah, pass some tests over a couple days.
Yeah, it didn't even feel like they had like a full. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But
they've added that. They've added the extra neurologist that looks down with the binoculars to call down within the last couple years.
Yeah, it feels. Yeah.
What was he doing? Eating a fucking hot dog on the quarterback sneak here? Because shouldn't he be? I guess you can't. You're not just looking at the quarterback. You're looking at every player. It's not an easy job. I'm not.
Yeah, you might have taken that play off.
Well, yeah. What if you had to take a leak?
Quarterback. I also think those hits, right? Like the line of script. Like who almost never gets pulled out of the game for concussion protocol is like the left guard who's just doing this, banging his head against the other guy's head repeatedly, right? It's receivers who, like you said this yesterday, get hit in space where everybody can see what happened. Because the other thing is, linemen are always like, once you get to the second quarter of a game, these guys, just to get up off the ground, it looks like they might need to be checked out, right? They're big, they're already hurt, they're heavy, and they're getting landed on. So linemen, it's hard to ID them. And then Brock didn't get up slowly. There wasn't any real indicator, I don't think, until the next pass came. Maybe that should have been the thing. It was the next play that he threw the interception to the Juwan Jennings intended pass. So, yeah, I mean, I
what if he said, I thought he was in red?
What?
What if he's like, I threw it to that guy because I thought he was on my team?
That would have been a red flag. Yeah, that would have been Darnold's time. And maybe they would have been better off with Darnold then. That's the interesting part about this, too, is that
Hard to come out of the pen 5 minutes left in the game.
yeah. No,
I mean,
it
if your
is.
guy's concussed, I'm saying you got to do it, but I'm just saying the expectations in that situation would be somewhat difficult. I would guess they would run some quick slant or a quick screen or something. Then like 5-7 step drop. But who knows?
Is that what you think Kyle would do?
Well, he's the greatest player he's ever had that he's never seen him play a game for him.
I think Kyle would be like, no, just ran the game plan. I think Kyle would call the same shit and then be confused if Sam was a little rusty. But you're right. I mean, look, last week, what happened? McCaffrey was I don't want to say so banged up, but he missed some practice time, said he felt great, and Shanahan played him every snap in the game. So there is no question. If the doctor tells him he's cleared, he is starting the game. Whether or not that happens or whether there's like a secret NFL protocol now that keeps guys out, we'll see. To me, the funny part about it is that he wants Darnold to in theory, at least my theory, was that he also wants to see Sam Darnold. But
you're a starter for a reason in the NFL, though.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So Sam Darnold's not the starter because he thinks Brock Purdy's better.
Right.
To me, it's just that simple, and that goes for any position. So the reason that all these guys, and really it might even be unfair, I think every coach leans that way. Like starting quarterbacks cleared, he starts. I mean, this is the sport. Unless you start watching some of these teams around the league, like, is Tyrod Taylor better than Daniel Jones? But for any good team, their starter's the starter for a reason, right?
Right. Yep.
Any playoff level team, even ironically, I know the Giants were last year, they're not anymore. You want that guy to be in the game because you view there's a drop off. That's what, you look last week. The thing that makes me a little nervous with Trent is, and I know they were playing on, on a surface that no team bitches and moans about, and you can say rightfully so, but everyone else plays on it, than the 49ers, is that like they don't just arbitrarily, I'll just give Trent the day off. Like, that's just, he had to be compromised, right? Because that's just not the way the NFL works. You only get 17 games. And even once they lose, and I saw one thing I saw Kyle said after the game was like, we got outplayed. Like, they outplayed us.
Yeah.
And he was right. We got legitimately beat. Just because the fans and people on the outside, and honestly, probably some players, just like, we're better. No coach in the NFL, I think, really ever has that mindset going into a game. And I would say especially a primetime game where you go, everyone's watching. So I think if we just look back at the game, because I think it would be easy. They're just probably trying to get one without Trent. No, I don't know if they thought he was in a good position to play, right? And I think that's how they kind of view their injury. Obviously, Debo's a no-brainer. He's got a fracture, right? And they
cannot play.
Cannot play. But I wonder if Trent was closer to cannot play than like, this is the Super Bowl, right?
Right, which makes you wonder if he cannot play this week.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I wonder. But I think that speaks to the Brock mindset. Like, if he's cleared, he plays. This is the way this sport works.
Yeah, yeah. But wouldn't every coach do that with Brock?
That's my point. And it's like, I might have been unfair calling him ruthless, though I do think his history, which I like. I don't want my football coach to try to be everyone's friend, i.e. Brandon Staley. Like, you got to have a ruthless nature to you. But Kyle has done things. If you just look at his resume, the way he treats quarterbacks, Buckner, just the way he does stuff, like he can, and I think it's part of growing up in the business. And we talked about this the other day of like, you just get numb to it. This guy's been around this shit from just so long. Even more like McVey. Well, McVey kind of, his grandpa was the GM. Kyle's fucking father. Think about being 14 years old. Every single day you go to your home with your parents. Like, they are your life. Sometimes I think about how weird life is the older you get. That when those 18 years you spend, whether it's you got 2-parent home, your mom, someone else, whoever raises you, how much time you spend surrounded by that person. And Kyle was just in the NFL life. Like, that just was his life. Now, obviously his dad worked long hours and stuff, but like that's what he
was
grew up
there
like,
too.
what you talked about, just being addicted to it. And by the time you get to 12, 13, every single day, if you're a football addict, which clearly is, like, you're going to want to be around it. Can I go to the facility? Can I go to work with you, Dad? I'm going to go with you on Saturday. Just shit, anything you could do. I think you gain like a great, if you are talented. Now, just because you're born into it does not mean you're going to run your family's business. But if you do have the talent and you are addicted, and I think that's one advantage I think sometimes coaches get than maybe other people in like other industries, like how are you ever going to love the car dealership as much as your dad? But I do think that you can love football as much as your dad. Like it kind of makes sense with sports sometimes, right? Because think how many kids just that work normal people job love their football team or their Alabama football because their parents did. It's like a passion. Well, this is what these guys do for a living. That I wonder if he's just the way he looks at it is so transactional that he just and most coaches eventually to be good at it, that's how you kind of got to be.
Well, the question is not would he play Brock if he's cleared. I think the question is will he call a game differently if Brock is the quarterback? Will he call a quarterback sneak on 3rd down and 6 inches if Brock Purdy's cleared in this game? Right? I think the history would tell us, yeah, he will. Now, I don't know if he will, but the way he didn't go easy on Christian McCaffrey last week. Now, it's different with head injuries. Will he call a quarterback sneak on 4th and 1?
Well, do you think he'd call the game differently? Would it look a lot different if Sam's in the game than if Brock was in the game?
No.
Their offense would just look completely normal, right?
Yes.
Maybe take occasional more, maybe a go route or two more because Sam can throw it a little farther.
Yeah, maybe. But I feel like that stuff's there. I feel like it's part of their offense.
You know 100%. I'm just saying you could just call something a little deeper.
Yeah, you could intentionally set up a go ball. Yeah, I mean, Brock Purdy. I mean, Sam Darnold, John, 56% on balls over 20 yards last year. Number 1 completion percentage in the league on balls over 20 yards last year in the NFL.
Yeah, throwing the ball down the field. I'm not trying to diminish. Like he pushes the ball down the field. I'm just saying like a legit outside run straight outside and just throw up.
No question. I mean, we talked about the Niners still don't do that. They don't have that in the bag really. No. And they did with. I mean, Darnold hit one in a preseason game. Like you don't see that
kind of crazy
ball to Ronnie Bell. Like you just don't see it.
Well, it's kind of crazy that out of Danny Gray's 27 catches, none of them have been on a go route.
Bro, if Danny Gray has 27 catches, I will eat this iPad right here. I will.
Or you never know. I mean, you see, Mad Dog said
he have 2 catches.
Is he on the team?
I mean,
I actually crossed my mind today. Danny Gray, Ty Davis Price, Drake Jackson. Are they on the team? Are they on the team?
Drake Jackson played 12 snaps the other day. I think it was the lowest on the defensive line.
It's crazy how little impact you feel him. Like if to me, if one of these guys is available, these big defensive linemen, ideally you wouldn't have to do it because you would have this ascending young player that everyone was bullish on. It's clearly not working, right? If it was working, they might not be inclined to trade for Randy Gregory in the first place. Ty Davis Price, in fairness, I mean, McCaffrey gets that one's like he actually could be decent, but he's 4th on the depth chart, and Danny Gray just is injured / MI. Like my point is that it's just those are 3 guys that you used for a team that didn't have many picks the last couple of years. That's a lot of ammo on those 3 guys.
Yeah, it is.
What's his name? The Alabama tight end. He's on injured reserve. Moody's holding on for dear life. Like their 2nd and 3rd round picks, which were kind of their lifeblood, are not doing much these last 2 years right now. Moody's the most productive by far just because he just does go on the field. I don't know if he's going to make it.
We got 1 clear catch from Danny Gray, by the way. So Jalen Hurd will not end up with more catches than Danny Gray. We got 1.
Like you just need to in the NFL. Because when I watch the Eagles, I watch the Niners, it feels like they got 1 or 2. If I just was ranking the rosters, they definitely feel better. Now, part of it is their D-line right now feels better than the Niners D-line. And their O-line in totality is clearly better than the Niners. Like Trent, I would say, is the best offensive lineman. but then you'd probably rank their next 3 guys probably all Eagles. Kelsey, Lane, the Australian left tackle. I mean, they love Landon Dickerson, who I think went to the Pro Bowl last year, who was at Alabama a couple years ago. I mean, they drafted him in the second round off like 2 torn ACLs. I remember texting Howie. He's like, this fucking guy stays healthy. We got ourselves a star. Now, we'll see if he can for his career, but like that guy's better than Banks. So it's just now the Niners, because of Kyle's scheme, play well as a unit. But my point is, it'd be nice if, like, God, Drake Jackson's a 7-sack guy, and what the tight end from Alabama, he's a solid backup tight end. You'd feel better about just the group of the unit. Now it's like Fred Warner better make every tackle. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, all these picks that they've had over the years, it's, this is a comp pick, this is a comp pick, we're drafting end of the round. Like, these are all freebies, and they hit on, like, Burford starts, Banks starts, like, Jalen Moore played well the other day. Like, they've done well.
I'm not acting like they miss on every single one. I'm talking about this group in the immediate, that just happened over the last
I'm with you.
18 months.
Yep.
Where the fuck are they?
Well, that's why we're, Niners trade deadline is quickly approaching, John. And I think you have to expect that they make a trade.
1,000,000%.
Right?
I think they make a big trade.
You think they make a big trade? What's a big trade? Patrick Surtain?
Like, could they give like a second and a third for Donnell Hunter from the Vikings? Could they?
If they'd beaten the Vikings, maybe.
Yeah, but if, let's say, the Vikings lose this week to the Green Bay Packers,
John Lynch
are they really that close?
Their GM spent like 30 minutes talking on the field before the game per
like 8 laps around the field. I saw.
Yeah, so that's
I'm just using that as an example because that's fresh.
Brian Burns, you poo-pooed the Brian Burns one when I brought that one up the other day.
I'm not into doing a 1st and 2 2s for a player.
Yeah, okay.
I saw he went on the injury report today with Carolina. I kind of want to do. I'd like to keep my first, ideally.
Yeah.
And really, the guy. If you tell me the Niners give up first, it's going to be a wow name. So I would be more likely to expect them to do one year classic. They gave a 2 and a 4 for a guy, right? A Donnell Hunter who can be a free agent, but I think he's leading the league in sacks.
Seriously? How many's he got? Because Trey Hendrickson's got
75?
7. Sam Hubbard's got more than Bosa at this point. Sam Hubbard's got 3.
Hunter has 9.
Wow. I mean, the Emmanuel, like when they got,
he's only 28. He's only 28 years old.
Okay.
He's 6'5", 260, 34 inch. I mean, he's a beast. He's a beast.
But if you're them right now, I mean, they should be beginning their rebuild if they're planning on not bringing Kirk Cousins back, but they're still playing games and now they're kind of in the mix. And, to
me, if they beat Green Bay and they are, what would their record be? They'd be 500. You're not when you just try to make the playoffs as a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Like, who do the Lions play this week? Lions just got their asses kicked. I'm not saying their bubble is burst, but you just start thinking like, can we win this division? If you're Minnesota, you got the better quarterback, I think.
Oh, the Raiders at home, Monday Night Football.
Wait, Lions Raiders is Monday Night Football in Detroit?
Yes. Swear to God, man, that is.
I do feel like I see more Raiders than I do.
Hot take. I like the Lions to bounce back.
John, I feel like I get between Carr being on the Saints and the Raiders. I feel like I get double. Like if I watch Carr and the Saints, I feel like I watched a Raider game. You know what I mean? So I feel like I've seen more Raider games probably than I actually have.
Josh is lucky that Mark, for the life of him, wants absolutely no part of like interviewing people in January. But this kind of just sets up. You lose the Division 7 quarterback. It's like, okay, can we just play a 10 a.m. East Coast game, maybe get a win against shit? You're playing on Monday Night Football against a team who just got their ass kicked, who's better than you at home. I mean, when's the last time Detroit had a Monday night game that probably felt like a real Monday night game? It's probably been a while. That's a big night for Detroit sports fans, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were good last year, and they get the Thanksgiving game. right? They didn't have a Monday night game last year. They always sneak them a couple.
I'm not. No, my point is a Monday night game where you're like, our team's one of the better teams in our conference. We're going to win the division. Like there's a different swag. And hey, this is biggest game of the year. We get our one Monday night game, right? To go. We also get a Thanksgiving game. We get a Monday night game. Hell of a season. And we're the fucking Detroit. We're good now. I think that vibe in there, and we're going to be the heavy favorite. I would expect it to be pretty loud.
Yeah.
Pretty intense.
$40 million in cap space, John. That's $6 million more than the Browns. Third in cap space at $12 million. So it is a significant amount of cap space relative to the rest of the league, with the exception of Cleveland. That's on a team that has, really looking back, the Emmanuel Sanders trade was a big trade for them. Even at the time, it felt big. I think that was a third and a fourth. But he was a like that level of player at any position is an impact level, right? Like whatever the Emmanuel Sanders equivalent at cornerback is. I don't know what that is. Like, is Jalen Johnson better at corner than Emmanuel? I think Emmanuel's a pretty good player. Jalen Johnson's probably was younger than Emmanuel's at a different point in his career. So he's less valuable.
Jalen Johnson is his contract's almost over. He's about to get paid. So it's like, you got to pay. He's one of their better players. Are you giving a second round pick? He was a second round pick. I mean, they're not just going to give him away and then you got to break him off. What I would like to do is get a guy who's an impact player, who's quote unquote overpaid for that team, and that team wants to unload his salary.
He's a free agent.
Or he's even under contract for the next year, but like that team's like, we're never going to pay him, but he's a good player. He's a veteran player. Ideally what the Eagles just did with Byard, team captain, elite dude, probably not as dominant of a player as he once was, but he's a plug-and-play player, makes a lot of coin. They were never going to pay him $14 million next year. The Eagles, this guy would have been the Eagles starter on their good teams for the last 5 years. Find a guy like that, maybe that has more people, because they're not going to be interested in the safety. It's going to be a right tackle or a defensive tackle or a corner. It's going to be an impact position that other teams would want. So, you might be swimming in the third round category, but also because of the money a guy makes, maybe you can just, hey, you don't even need to eat the money. We'll pay the cash. You give us the player. That's where I think they kind of can swim with the amount of cap space. Like, for example, they would never trade this guy. But if the LA Rams were like, they lose this week, they're like, we're fucking not going anywhere. We're just going to trade Aaron Donald. There are only so many teams if the LA Rams didn't want to eat any of the money. And obviously they would never in a million years trade him to the Niners. And I don't think, even if they lost, they're going to blow it up or anything. My point being, the Niners are in position where they don't. A couple years ago when the Rams got Von Miller, the only way the Rams could get Von Miller on their team, they had to eat the money. Now, granted, they got an extra pick because of it, but I couldn't take your salary on my books. The Niners can their wiggle room is unlimited. You can eat the money and we can give you an extra pick, or you can just give up your cash, which, let's face it, some owners save, because it's not just maybe 6-7 million this year. If they look at it like a total of 20+ million over a couple year span, that's where I think the Niners just give themselves options that they don't have to do to give the extra picks. Now, it's supply demand, the high level players like Brian Burns, whoever. I'm just going to keep saying Aaron Donald. When those type players are on the open market, teams figure out a way. So the bidding goes up. I had a guy describe it to me because I said,
Carolina specifically would be a team that would rather buy the pick too, right? In theory, they don't want to save the money. They want your best possible pick.
Yeah, and the picks are going to be valuable to them because they don't have ones.
Right. Sorry, you were saying somebody said
I would say the same thing with Denver, right? Because of the trade with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah. And they did it with Randy Gregory.
Like in a vacuum, trading for Patrick Surtain would make a lot of sense. He's a great player, great young player. Just the family name. Obviously, he's a plug and play elite guy when he's on. But that's an example of I think I just lean the trenches. I just lean the trenches. Now, it's proven it worked out really well for the Rams when they gave up 2 1s and a 2 for Jalen Ramsey. But I would hesitate doing that, I think. At that position.
You would take a lesser pass rusher.
Well, it wouldn't cost me as much too.
Right.
Because what I have to give to get this player, and then if I did that, I better have just you can't throw on me. And is that really going to be the case?
How many of those guys truly exist?
Is there
like
one
in the
Deion
league
Sanders
right
and
now?
Darrell Revis? No. Someone told me they thought that Sauce is good, but he's a little overrated. Good player, right? I mean, relative to his peers, he's one of the better.
Sure. There's nobody
relative
that
to
takes
some of the
away your
names
number
that
one
we
receiver. Part of
No,
it is think
I
about
mean,
the receivers. Is there anybody out there?
You think
taken
Tyreek Hill
away?
can't get open on Sauce Gardner?
Right.
Like you could not get open on Revis or Deion Sanders. Could not get open. There was no daylight. And I think but what you have to pay, even Jalen for a time, what made Jalen special too is like the knock I've heard on Sauce. Yeah, he's not a huge into tackling. Well, Deion wasn't either, but Deion, you couldn't get open on him. Where Sauce is like, so long. Jalen would fuck you up. So Jalen was a double whammy. He could cover, obviously had good ball skills. And if you ran to his side, he was a good run filler. So he actually was kind of like a hybrid linebacker.
Yeah.
I like my corners to tackle. That's why I like Ward. Ward will tackle. The Niners value tackling. Surtain, I'd be lying if I said I like broke down his strengths and weaknesses. Feels like more of a tackler. But I do think the Niners really value that in their corners. Tackling, physicality. They like guys. I mean, one thing, what's his name? Oliver's playing. Like he's a physical guy.
Right.
Speed's not really his deal.
No.
And I like that too. I mean,
but
look
he
at their
makes
safety
up
play.
for it because he does tackle. He does. I mean,
I
he
would say
gets beat, but he. Yeah.
Well, exactly.
A lot of guys do.
What do you say about their safeties? I mean, they don't exactly have Ed Reed back there, but both guys will hit you.
Speaking of which,
John Lynch just living through his former self vicariously through his defensive backfield.
Hey, Jair Brown. I mean, I know they don't need him this year, but you start talking about like recent draft picks, and this wasn't supposed to be his year, John. It's not supposed to be his year. But I feel like the Niners, like that was Drake Jackson last year. Like, hey, it's not supposed to be his year. Okay, well, we'll just flip the switch next year then. You know who leads the Niners in sacks? 2 players are tied for the team lead. Somebody put it in the chat.
Hargrave.
Correct. Has 3. Tied with
Kerry Hyder. I don't
Drake Jackson. They have them all week 1.
Yeah.
Against the Steelers. Have them all against the Steelers week 1. So
I think the elephant in the room with the Niners defense is like Nick Bosa, for them to be an awesome defense, has to be like a 15-sack guy. And they viewed him like that. He became that, and they're paying it.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the cornerback comes into play. Is like, I think there are people who would argue right now with this team. And I heard maybe it was Shanahan say basically with Nick, he was like, the number's 2.5. He's had 2 that he should have gotten that were easy ones. He's had a couple that he was close on, but they just didn't we didn't have good enough coverage. He didn't get there. And
I'm not acting like the guy's a scrub.
No, I know
I'm not
you're
acting like
I know
the
you're
guy's
not. I'm just saying,
shitty.
I'm just saying maybe there is something to be said for, boy, there are a lot of dudes wide ass open in that Vikings game. Like, is Jamar Chase going to get 15 balls this week? Because if he does,
well, he's on pace for about 150 catches this year.
What's he got? 50?
Well, he's got 50 through 6. So 6 times 3 would be 18 games or 17 games. So he's on pace for close to 140 catches here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be a problem.
But
now, their offensive
if that happens this
their
week,
offensive line sucks, guy. The running game sucks. So this is a thing with Bosa. And I hear what you're saying about the coverage. No one, you and I could be covering right now for Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. When you watch them play, they're unstoppable forces. I even think this year with Max Crosby, positive Raider take, he's going to find a way. The will and the effort. It's not that Bosa doesn't play hard, but it's just a little tick off, which is understandable. He disappeared for 9 months. Doesn't mean he's not in shape. I mean, you saw him the Kim Kardashian photo shoot. He looks fucking fantastic. But we got to pay to get the quarterback, baby.
Did I see it, John?
Not even just paid to get the quarterback, like you said, paid to just constantly pressure the quarterback. I can live with a couple sacks if it just feels like he's peppering the guy, which he's felt like that before, and it just doesn't feel as consistently in the backfield right now.
Did you see the pressure that the Bengals got on Geno 2 weeks ago? It was Hendrickson off the left and maybe a safety off the right. They both of them, from each edge, unblocked. Geno like dropped back, and it was one of those. Kirk Cousins would have got the ball out a half second faster. Geno gets absolutely sandwiched, and the ball just he was trying to take a deep shot, and the ball just goes fluttering into the air. But that's not what Cincinnati, they've got guys that they got two guys that get sacks just because they go get sacks, right? Like this week, I do think it'll be a lot of, we'll see. If it's Brock, I don't think there's a lot of evidence that says like you should blitz Brock because Brock's pretty good. So what I'm getting at is heading into the bye with the trade deadline approaching, are there things that can happen in this game that affect which direction the 49ers go in the trade market, right? If they're getting pressure with four guys on Sunday, maybe they go line. If they got Jamar Chase running wide ass open, gets 13 balls, which is on the table, maybe they go corner or pass rusher. Maybe they do both. Like they got $40 million. They could do both.
Trade one for one guy, two for another guy?
Yeah. I mean, you could do it if you're like, hey guys, what are they thinking? Do they think Aiyuk's going to be back next year? Right? Like, do they view this as their best? Like, what do they do? Do they view it as,
do they view that as their ability to recoup the one with him?
Could be. Oh, that's interesting.
Which is crazy. I mean, I don't agree. I find a way, but
what are you saying? You find a way to re-sign Aiyuk? Is that what you're saying?
To keep him, but then you could also argue it feels like the most he's ever going to get is 75 catches here. So I wouldn't
doesn't
even
mean
blame
he's less
him
valuable to you than a team that he catches 120 on though. Because you still, when you need him, right?
Well, yeah, the 49ers 75 catches is, the Chiefs 110. So.
Exactly.
So one thing that is going to be interesting though, they had Jesse Bates is now on Atlanta. They lost some defensive players to free agency, but their coordinator has proven a couple years ago they punked Andy and Patrick Mahomes in the championship game on the road. Last year, they thoroughly embarrassed on the road the Buffalo Bills. I mean, absolutely punked them. I mean, it was one of the great equal games that you just went, this is going to be one of the better, divisional round playoff games, kind of like Niners Cowboys, and they fucking punked them. Made Josh look terrible. This defensive coordinator is the real deal. And just kind of their defensive, like, this is going to be a really tough test for just the operation, especially the offense has been sputtering now for a couple weeks. Quarterback situation, big day for Kyle. Like you said, the offensive line against Trent's clearly not healthy. And then, so whether he plays or not, their pass rush is good. There's a hard game. I know this team started slow, but they've started slow like 4 years in a row. I mean, 2 of the years, they've gone to a Super Bowl and they got to a championship game. I mean, if the NFL was NBA Jam, I mean, they got a top 3 NBA Jam team with their quarterback and their receiver, right? Who else you'd say?
Oh, what other combos?
I'm just saying, just the quarterback to the guy you pass. You go Mahomes, Kelsey, Diggs, Josh. You'd probably put Burrow, Chase above them.
Olave Carr?
Before or after he gets pulled over and says he's on the Saints. You see that clip?
Oh, I saw the clip. Well, I was trying to remember what did the officer say? Like, good for you, or and and nothing, man. I'm just helping you fill out your paperwork.
You know what's funny? He's in a neighborhood, obviously, multi-million-dollar homes. They look sweet. Can you imagine some of his other neighbors looking out like, oh my God, because they're probably Saints fans. Our fucking star receiver's getting arrested.
Yeah. What was he driving?
Yeah, a Porsche, I think.
I mean, but it's not just Jamar Chase, right? It's T. Higgins. It's Tyler Boyd.
Higgins messed up his ribs early in the season and just reading the scuttlebutt online, it feels like kind of a weird spot, right? Could have got extended. He didn't. Some buzz about trading for him this offseason. Remember their GM at the Combine said, because people were putting out that he's on the block, and his GM was like, get your own receivers. But clearly he's in a position where he kind of looks at it going, well, they're definitely going to play Chase. Am I kind of the odd man out here? So they're not as dominant of a unit, but Burrow and Chase, I mean, we just saw the Niners star corner get lit up by a rookie. Lit up would be strong, but he made some plays on him.
This is a big Steve Wilks game. Something that we're not watching right now, but something in the chat said that Steve Wilks said, I wish I could take it back, talking about the blitz at the end of the half. This is a big Steve Wilks game against a good team. You know,
well, because Kyle threw me under the bus. You know what I need to tell you guys?
Yeah, don't let it be said.
Don't
let it be said that Kyle Shanahan doesn't believe in accountability for his defensive coordinator. Okay.
Yeah, I suck. Genius. I mean, that guy. You should see his offensive game plan. Never fails.
What if he had said, you know what? I'll tell you the one Kyle would have liked to have back. How about having his quarterback drop back after taking a hit to the head? Huh? You think Kyle would have maybe should have handed it off on first down?
Yeah, he's like, now that I've had a front row seat here for 2 months here of real games, I noticed Kyle loves to run the ball constantly, and I'm thinking as a defensive coordinator, hey, Kyle, it's kind of easy when everyone knows you're going to hand it to McCaffrey up the middle. How about this? Throw the fucking ball. What if he said that? Would Kyle fire him? You know what's stupid? It's like an apology to Twitter to a bunch of people you don't know. For Steve Wilks to say, I take full responsibility for that call. Of course, you made the call. Like, what do we even? Why?
Oh, I know. People just love to hear accountability. Where's the accountability? But you know what? It's part of just having a normal line of communication. What else?
I don't even know this guy, but I do feel bad that why can't Kyle ever say he's an idiot? Kyle refuses to say that he made the wrong play call on the play that got Brock Purdy's elbow snapped in half.
I know Wilks should have waited.
This guy does one call where his corner, the ball hits his corner in the fucking hands, who they're paying $15 million a year. This little rookie rips the ball out, and Steve Wilks has to apologize to the nation. Meanwhile, Kyle's up there never taking accountability in his life, like Kyle Shanahan, and not even a big Steve Wilks guy, but holy shit, what are we doing here? There has to be some people on the defensive coaching staff kind of rolling their eyes on this one. Like, of course, the offense. Yeah,
of course.
Like,
yeah, he scored 17 points back-to-back games, Kyle. Well, I held him to 22, 6 in the second half. We're going to talk about that play that went through the guy's hands?
Yeah. Hey, Kyle, could you tell your boy Wonder to hold on to the ball after we pick off their first drive? You say that, fucking Kyle, kick your ass out of the building, though. Christian McCaffrey takes more accountability than Kyle.
Bosa.
One guy who never takes public accountability is Kyle Shanahan. I mean, that is,
which, by the way,
talk about a downfall.
By the way, it doesn't really bother me either. Like, we've debated it, but I don't need that from him.
Just like I don't need his other coach.
No. I'm just saying, like as it stands by itself, I don't care about that, right? As long as the guys in the locker room don't think you're being a fraud, then I don't really care. But then you turn around and say he wants that one back. Like, look, could you give us a short list of the ones you want back?
Yeah, I think the thing the Niners have going for them, everyone on the same page in terms of like no frauds. Everyone knows, people know what they're doing. This was a pretty extreme 24 hours of just something you do not see in the NFL, especially with a new coach. I would say, too, if it was D'Amico, they had known each other for a decade and a half. They love each other, or Saleh or something. This guy's been in the league a little while doing other things.
Been in the league. It's not like he's got, like, we've watched him every week and gone like, God, what is he? They're top 6 defense, right? Well, say whatever you want. Not good enough. Who knows? Whatever. It's not like it's been a disaster. Anything close to that, actually. And then on top of that, the play almost worked. Didn't want to call. I mean, DB's got to know better. Well, you know what Kyle should have added to it. You know, and the other thing is, Steve is the DB coach. So it was a bad call, and he didn't have Mooney Ward coached up on the pass breakup. Did you see Mooney Ward admitted, like, yeah, I was thinking about the return?
Makes it because he probably saw some green
which is
grass,
what I
right?
thought 100%. Like, yeah, he thinks he's about to, I'm going to take this ball back.
But when you do undercut a post, that guy's running this way, you're going in. You're going to get
except zero coverage. The other 10 guys are back there.
Yeah. You're going to get 15, 20 yards.
That's true. Set up a Moody field goal.
I think he's really been itching for a pick six.
Yeah. Well, he thought he had. You're right. He probably thought maybe I'll get one earlier in the game.
Yeah. Let's just try to make the proper plays, guys. Kyle, you are the head coach. Like you said yesterday, do you flip the channel to listen to defense, or are you just talking with your offensive guys? Like, did you hear that call and go, Steve, is this a good idea? And listen, I'm not
what
a
are you
big
supposed to do at that point. There's nothing you can
to micromanage.
Did they have a timeout then?
Do you know what I would appreciate if Steve Wilkes did? Listen, I fucked up on that call, but how about that? Them just going a 2-minute warning with 8 guys on defense. How about that call? I mean, that's one of the most outrageous. Troy Aikman, who's been playing, watching, and calling football now for 35 years, so he's never seen that in his entire life. I think most people, it feels like if you told me there were 9 guys, you'd be like, that's pretty crazy. 8. Kyle, this is your baby. 8 guys. There's
Couldn't
no
take
one
advantage of that.
Your headset.
Mouse in the house.
It's up there.
A little mismatch.
Yeah.
It's like getting a big man on a 6-footer and you call a timeout to set up the play.
God. To me, my anger stems
Kyle
from
Shanahan's such a gift, man.
This reflects the Eagles game where he just wouldn't and refuses. Refuses.
I
6 games in,
I expect
he's acting
Croft
like
to make
Wilkes
that
is
block.
an idiot.
Hey, sue me for believing in him.
Yeah. When you see Hassan Reddick, no one can block him still, but shit. Croft gets his foot.
No,
inside.
The real answer is the real answer. Brock's just supposed to get that ball out a little sooner. Not supposed to hitch on that one, John. What do we got? Rams, Cowboys. Oh, the other thing is Seahawks host the Browns. PJ Walker on Sunday. So if the desperation levels on this game are high, whether it's Darnold or Brock, like you don't get a pass for it being Darnold, right? Desperation levels on this game are high. Seattle's 4-2. Niners are 5-2. You lose, they win. You're 5-3. They're 5-2. Guess who's in first place in the division? Seattle. So it's like, it's one of those, it's not a must-win game, but you really need it type game. But forget about all that stuff. It's just there is a practical punishment here if you lose and your rival wins.
It'd be a disaster to go into the bye with 3 straight losses.
And that
I think this must-win territory for just the get their mentals right. I know.
Man. You said it yesterday, we need to rehash, but God, they end up in this spot every year.
Yes. No. How about no buys this week? 16 games. How does that make any sense?
Is that right?
Yeah,
you're
16
right.
NFL games.
Let's see. Competing for our attention during Niners Bengals will be Browns Seahawks, and that's about it.
It's actually not a very good week when you.
It's a heavy morning schedule. It looks like, huh?
But somehow there are 16 games, and they figured out a way to get not many good games. I mean, a lot of bad games.
Well, I always like
part of it is some of these divisional games like Minnesota, Green Bay, Chiefs, Denver, and they're just Patriots, Dolphins. It's just a lot of bleh.
Everybody plays, and I think at a quick glance, John, there's only one game between 2 teams with winning records. That's Jags Steelers. Now there's like 500 games, like Niners over 500, Bengals are a 500 team, Seahawks. Oh no, Seahawks Browns is the other one. 2. I think there's 2 games between teams. There's only one division in football where every team has won 2 games in a row, and that's the AFC North.
What's clearly the best division in football? Because the Bengals are in last place
at 4-2,
and the Browns are that good with shitty quarterback play.
Yeah,
think if the Browns had just a Cousins like level quarterback, you'd be probably looking at one loss team.
Sorry,
but
three,
even
Cincinnati.
but feeling better about Monday night game. What's the Raiders? 3-4? Is that the Raiders record?
Raiders are 3-4. Feels worse
It really
for us
does.
fans.
Yeah.
Comment to finish off here. Jake says, if you can't beat Cincinnati at home, you're not winning at Jacksonville, Philly, Seattle, or Baltimore at home. I don't agree with that necessarily. You get Debo back, Trent healthy. Let's see what happens with Brock. They're too good of a team for me to say just because they lose one game, they're not going to win another game. But yeah, I mean, it would send them, they would have to do some soul searching into that bye.
I would say this: if Jacksonville goes to Pittsburgh and wins, all of a sudden they'd be 6-2. I don't even know who they play the Niners bye week, but they would be a team with, I would say, as much momentum
Jacksonville's
as any team
on
in
a
the
bye.
league. They're both on byes after that game?
Wait, you're talking about this? You're talking about the Niners-Jags game?
Yeah.
Niners and the Jags are on a bye in the same week. So you don't even get the advantage of playing Jacksonville.
Jesus. I would say if Jacksonville goes into Pittsburgh and wins, and I understand Pittsburgh is a flawed team, that'd be a pretty impressive victory. Southern team, just not that tough. More of an offensive squad. Their defense kind of stinks. I think that'd be an impressive early Doug Peterson career. Like, you'd be like, God, are the Jags headed toward 13 wins?
They'd be 6-2 going into the bye. with a loss to Kansas City. And it just your blowout loss to Houston would just look like a weird thing that happened.
Yeah. Division games. Weird shit happens.
The other thing, John, they'd be 6-2 playing the Niners. Then they'd get Titans, Texans. I mean, they would go into the bye thinking like, we can be like 9-2 going into December.
I think the best thing the Niners have going for them in that game is the Jags, if they were to win this week, don't need the Niner game at all, right?
You're right. You should root for the Jags this week. All right. Anything we missed?
No. World Series start tonight?
I believe that it does. Bochy Revenge tour continues.
You see Nate Silver's tweet?
About not liking the World Series?
Called the worst World Series in the history of the sport.
Oh.
But he kind of based it on just, you get two teams that obviously, the Diamondbacks were the worst NL team to get in. The Rangers were good and then they really faltered. But just baseball, the problem is the great teams, because the playoffs are so random, and now with the expanded wild card, it's even led to more randomness. And it's just part of the deal. It's almost like hockey. You just get, it is just a very, very random, the postseason consistently. Now the Giants benefited from that because they won World Series as road dogs. I mean, it's just not, this is not getting the Chiefs and Steph Curry and, the Final Four consistently of Kentucky's and Dukes. It's just not really the way baseball works.
No. Starts on Friday. So good night to start the World Series.
I guess the Rangers would host.
Couldn't tell you.
Who won the Rangers? The Diamondbacks won 84 games. 84 games. Like, you can't tell me if they win the World Series, they're the best team in baseball.
But it's not. Who cares, right? They got the win. They got the trophy.
That would feel pretty crazy if the Arizona Diamondbacks 84 wins.
Just the tournament, man. I know. The in-season tournament. I'm getting amped up for the in-season tournament, John.
There's gonna be a lot of eyeballs on that one.
I'm getting amped. I saw the 8 bullet points explaining to me how it's going to work during one of the telecasts the other night. I still don't understand it, but that's okay.
Are there like brackets?
There's groups, and then there's wild card, and I couldn't even begin. I did think watching it though, like my default is to be a hater, and then I was like, you know what? Soccer does in soccer, those people seem to like it.
Well, that's who he's copying.
College basketball, they've got all these little mini tournaments during the season. Those people like it. Maybe I'll just my vow to myself, not vow, but I was like, you know what, guy? How about you just give it a chance and try to, maybe you'll like it. So,
but it's not about you. It's about they won't try. Like, why are the players who have been outspoken?
No, it's only about me. It's just about me. If I don't like it, then I don't like it. That's all I'm saying.
Did you see that James Harden went to get on the team jet and they told him to turn around and he wasn't welcome? You see that story?
No, I did see people were like, oh, Devin Booker and Bradley Beal aren't playing Thursday night. Star players held out. And my first thought was, I haven't seen Bradley Beal play basketball in 5 years. I don't think that's the same as Devin Booker.
Well, he didn't play against the Warriors. He's injured.
Yeah, I'm just saying I just haven't seen Bradley Beal in a long time. Maybe that's an indictment of me, but
yeah, James Harden went to the airport to join the Sixers on the road trip and was denied entry onto the team plane by a security official.
So they left it to like just the general employee.
But I do appreciate trying to draw a line. Like they easily could have called his agent or texted him like, hey man, you're not going to come, but we're going to let you drive to the hangar
and have everyone watch you get denied.
Can you imagine?
It's not like he was the first guy there and got denied before anybody else showed up, right? I doubt that.
Definitely. I mean, there's a chance he's walking in with like 3 other guys. That's an all-time FU to mess with a guy.
Wow. Good for them.
Props to the Sixers. The problem is
he's their second best player.
Yeah. And the other thing is, one more NBA take.
Yeah.
And I get he was worn out by the Warriors. It was intense. But I thought Bob just kind of wanted to take a step back. I look up yesterday. He's at Madison Square Garden. It's like, yeah, I thought you kind of wanted to be low-key. You're flying here and flying there just to
and he was giving basketball. His takes on Harden. He was basically like, you got to like make it right with your best player. If Steph called me, I would call Steph. I'm like, Bob, Steph and James are not exactly. And he even said, he's like, Draymond did some things wrong, but I mean, Draymond wasn't like Harden. He acknowledged it was very different. But
my point is, you're taking a year off. You're pretty rich. You kind of want then all of a sudden, it'd be one thing, hit up, do some of these Lakers, Warriors kind of stay on the way. He's fucking flying to New York to like sit there.
Is he taking a year off? It doesn't feel like he's taking. Was he
ever
intending to take a year
off?
So
clearly, he just didn't want any part of working anymore, and it might just be as simple as. I think I heard Simmons say this, and I saw the clip. He said that, like, one thing that's just inevitable in this business is you get such good relationships with guys, and you got to have hard conversations about contracts, like AKA. I don't think they intend on re-signing Clay, but I wasn't going to be that guy who broke this up.
Yeah.
And it's clearly come because I'm watching Clay just clank the other night. I'm like, yeah, the Clay's used to making $40 million a year. They'd probably sign him right now to about 14, and he's just not going to be on the Warriors. I think this is Clay's last year on the Warriors.
Well, I think Chris Paul's getting traded.
That's the way sports works.
We'll see how they look. We got a long way to go. I think we're headed towards Chris Paul getting traded before the trade deadline.
But do you think Clay has another $150 million contract coming?
No, but I don't think anybody's giving that to him.
I know, but it gets very personal when you think you've done everything for this team, and they
owe you one.
And listen, the NBA is so weird. Like, who's to say the Bobcats wouldn't give him like $120 million? He's already won a bunch of rings and rich.
All right. On that note, big week. We'll see. We'll see what's up with Brock, but either way, big week. We good?
Peace.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging. Later.